Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Now join me today on a very exciting video. This is one that I'm particularly excited about myself. This is Martin SN086 and this is the MM300 Homage. Now viewers of this channel know that I absolutely love the Seiko MM300. I think if you were to close your eyes and imagine a dive watch, Seiko's interpretation of a dive watch, especially the MM300, would definitely spring to mind. Just looking at the watch, everything about it just seems just fit for purpose. Now on this channel I have reviewed plenty of homages to that particular design. I've reviewed the Steeldive, the heimdallr, amongst others as well, but I've also looked at newer alternatives or slightly different versions. I've looked at the Thorn GMT diver in particular, and so this is why I'm very enthusiastic about reviewing this piece here. It's the one that did get away. Now this watch will set you back at around £196, just under £200, which equates to roughly 270 odd dollars. So still a significant amount of money, especially in comparison with the rest. Now what you get with this $268 watch, you get a Seiko NH35 movement. That's right, not a PT5000. This still runs the Seiko NH35. You also have the usual specifications: sapphire crystal ceramic bezel insert, a 120 click unidirectional bezel, full 316L stainless steel construction on the case, bracelet, crown and bezel. You also have 300 meters of water resistance with a screw down crown and a screw down case back. So throughout this review I need to go ahead now find out if this watch is that much better than my favorite MM300 Homage, which is from Proxima. So let's go ahead, check out the dimensions on the watch. Before I forget, let's do a wrist shot. I am wearing the SKX033, I believe. It's a modified version, as you can tell. Lovely little piece. So back to the SN086 and MM300 Homage. So as I was saying, dimensions, you do have a case diameter of 44 millimeters. You have a overall case thickness of 14 millimeters. Notice how this is quite thin compared to the rest. That's because this does not have a monoblock case construction. It is a two-piece case, and you do have a screw down case back, as I mentioned. The lug to lug on the watch is 50 millimeters. So specifications are in line with the rest apart from the thickness, which is, I think, going to be one of the key selling points on this watch, as it does increase that wearability. A lot of people have said that the biggest thing putting them off these MM300 Homages is the thickness. They usually sit at around 16 to 17 millimeters, which again is quite a difference. Now the weight of the watch is around 190 grams, so a pretty hefty watch. The lug width on the watch is 20 millimeters. You do have a taper on the bracelet which goes down to just under 16 millimeters. So overall, so far in hand, it does feel like a really well built watch. Very, very solid. Something which you could throw at a house and probably knock out some bricks. So let's take a closer look at the dial. Now the thing with this dial and the whole layout, it is very similar to all the other homages out there. I think this dial is also very popular across many other different watches, but it's that Seiko-esque MM300 style. I think it's really effective in a dive watch. You've got really large hour markers, you've got batons, thick circles, and that's why it just works. So on this San Martin's version, you do have this matte black dial, slightly grayed out, which is common amongst all the other competitors. Now you also have these applied hour markers, as I mentioned, really thick, very visible. You've got dual markers at the 12 o'clock, singular thick baton at the 6 and also at the 9. In between you've got circular markers, and as you can see, they do have a polished frame around each and every single one. You've got that San Martin logo above the 12. I absolutely love how the light does play off this logo. You can see the polished text within that hex logo just catches light really well, and the background is a sandblasted sort of finish, and you also have a polished frame around that hex. You do have printed text above the 6 automatic 300 meters, and you do have a chapter ring which is also printed. Focusing at the 3 o'clock date window, you'll see a beveled date frame. Quite a thick date frame, actually does really stand out, and you do also have a color matched date wheel in black. So I like how they've done that, really blends in with the dial. So as I said, everything about the dial stands out amazingly well. It's super easy to read, very, very legible, and that's one of the reasons why I do love the Seiko version, because of, you know, how they went about creating this. And it is one of my favorite dials. Now, moving across to the handset, again, an MM300 style handset. You do have a sword style minute hand, thick hour hand, and that MM300 style second hand. Now, what you'll notice is the finishing on these hands is exquisite. You can see two different types of finishing. The center of the handsets fully brushed in a linear fashion, and the edges have been chamfered and highly polished, which, as you guys can tell, it just loves catching the light. The reflection that comes off this style is stunning. The second hand is fully polished, and also pay attention to that centerpiece of that second hand, and you do have that top cap present. Again, chamfered around the sides, polished, really top level finishing on these hands, and they just stand out on the dial so well. And the color match on the loom between the hour markers on the hands and the dial is spot on. Now, moving on to the loom, as expected, this is amazing loom. But in all fairness, I've not come across an MM300 Homage with poor loom, but this being a San Martin, that loom is definitely well applied. Very bright. You're going to have amazing longevity on this style, and it will pick up light very easily. Now, I've not used my UV lamp on this. I've had no need to. Just the LED lights in the room are sufficient to give you this beautiful glow that will last, as mentioned, for quite a long time. Really large hour markers, very visible on the hands, and total loom monster. So now moving across to the sapphire crystal, let's just zoom in slightly. You'll see a very low dome sapphire crystal. It does have the subtlest of AR coating present, as you can see as I turn it towards the light. I really love it. It does not get in the way of this dial, even though it's nothing too fancy in terms of color. It's just a grey dial, but it doesn't get in the way. You do have a ceramic bezel insert, and one thing which I do love about San Martin, and it is present on all their watches now that do have ceramic bezel inserts, is this pip. Very well integrated within the actual bezel insert. Really nice, feels really nice, and looks top quality. You do have these thick white hour markers which are debossed within the bezel insert. Really well done, good quality. Of course, being a San Martin, it's just done really well. Fit and finish is also awesome. Now, looking at this bezel, I love what they have done with this bezel. Styling of this watch is in line with some of the newer series from Seiko, mainly the LX style. So you do see some LX inspirations, which is on the bezel and also the crown. Now, looking a lot closer at San Martin's version, you can see the bezel does have cog-like features present. It's been machined really well. You do have a slight bevel on the edge of the bezel, as you can see, and the actual teeth are faceted, which again points to a high level of machining. And in between those cogs you can see a fully polished surface. Just have a closer look there. And on the faces you do have circular brushing present. You've got linear brushing along the center and circular brushing along the bottom. So a lot of detail has gone into this bezel, and it feels absolutely awesome. The brushing on the top line matches really well with the case, gives it that tool-like appearance, as well as the cog-like aesthetic on the bezel. Really does suit the watch. Really well done. And being a San Martin, you don't have any playback in the bezel, you don't have any movement in there. Let's check out the rotation. Just look how precise that bezel is. Alignment is perfect, no backplay, and that sound, I love that sound. I think they've got this bezel absolutely perfect. The resistance is perfect. You know, you don't need to put too much torque in while turning the bezel, and it's not very light as well compared to some of the others. I think it's just spot on. I love that movement. So it sounds and feels really well made. Going across to the case, as I mentioned about the crown already, let's take a closer look at that. You do have that shark emblem, polished, present on the crown, and you've got this machining present on the crown, again a cog like structure with a sort of head there present, fully polished. And what you'll also notice that the crown is recessed into the case, and you can see that they have machined this gap into the case, which does allow the crown to sit in there perfectly. Again, really well thought out. The crown function, as you can see, the crown is pretty chunky, so there's no problem there manipulating that crown. Smooth threads, no issues screwing that in and out. And on the A face, you do have a linear brushing present along the lug tips, as you can see that on both ends. Now I love these cases because they do have a few different facets on there. Just look at the tips. It goes from the transition of the finishing goes from a linear brushing finish to a polished edge, and that center has this really nice brushing which does curve in line with the center of the case, and it splits the case down the middle, followed by a polished underside, which again, as you can see, it is sloped up to give you ultimate comfort on that wrist. So I love the transitions, very clean transitions, really well done. There's no overrun of the brushing and polishing, etc. You do have drill lugs, which will make bracelet changes very easy indeed. I'll just have a closer look at that finish. It is really impeccable, and you know, with all these different transitions, that really does let you know how well a case is made, because you're just doing that much more to it in terms of finishing. On the case back, you do have San Martin Shark, you've got sub 0086, 300 meters, so basically just the specifications that I found on the watch. Nice case back, mixture of brushed and polishing, and some sandblasting in the center. So all in all, I'd say very impressive watch, built like a brick house, absolutely stunning. You do have a few different colors. I think you definitely have a green, maybe a blue as well, I'm not too sure. I'll put up some pictures to show that. Now let's have a closer look at the bracelet. So usual things, solid end links, fully solid links. As I mentioned, it tapers down from 20 millimeters down to just below 16 millimeters. You've got this hexad style bracelet, again different multifaceted links, a 3-link design. Does not have female end links. I think a watch of this size could have benefited, but again, if you look at the curvature of the center link on the end link, it does slope down quite dramatically, so it's not something which you need. It comes down pretty much in line with the lugs. You do have a pin and collar design. It's not too bad actually, because the collars are those longer collars, not like the Seiko teeny weeny collars, which you end up like hurting your fingers trying to do it. Fully brushed bracelet, fully brushed links. Again, really well done. Feels very solid in hand. Let's go across to the clasp. Now this clasp is slightly different. They were using this clasp on the older watches before they transitioned into the newer ones that we see with just the flip. But what you will see is this raised center, which looks really nice, and that follows through across the flip. As you can see, the linear brushing present, San Martin logo in the center of that. 6 micro adjusts, and I think this clasp definitely suits this bracelet, and it suits the overall aesthetic of the watch. The one thing is missing, there is no diver's extension. You know, San Martin being who they are, sort of leading the market, I think they can definitely come out with a small dive extension or something like a on-the-fly adjustment. So let's put this bad boy on wrist. I do have an outdoor wrist shot for you guys on this one. So here we have this monster of a watch, the San Martin SN086 on my 6.5-inch wrist. It does fit really well. You know, Seiko have this ability to make massive watches where really small. And as I mentioned about the bottom of the case, where it does kind of curve upwards, you know, it does make the watch sit really well. That 50 millimeters lug to lug isn't too bad. On a 6.5-inch wrist, it still sits within the outsides of your wrist. Sits pretty central. The case is very comfortable. The bracelet is also comfortable. Although the sides of the links are slightly edgy, I would like to see some further polishing, just some further finishing to kind of round them off. But it isn't too bad. However, build quality, as you guys saw, and anybody who does own one of these, very, very well built, absolutely solid. Now, I do have my Proximas present here and here, so I'm definitely going to do a review between these. You know, Honestly, I don't want the St. Martin to be better than these because I fell in love with these a long time ago, and this one in fact was the first ever watch that I bought from AliExpress. So I've had this for a good 2 years. But having said that, you know, it's everything I've looked at is just done so well, and the fact that they have upgraded it in line with some of the new models, I really do like that. So what more can I say? You've seen the review, everything is there in front of your eyes. Superior loom, you know, really well made, amazing build quality. Of course, being a St. Martin, in terms of anything, you know, with QC, I've not come across anything defective, any QC issues here. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this review. I will see you on the next video.